Hi, hello, good morning. I don't know what the fuck this is gonna be. I love it anyway because I just woke up. Just kidding. I actually have been awake since 3 a.m. It's a typical third world struggle. I'll get into that in a bit. But one of these things that I really like is when people just ramble while eating sushi, specifically sushi. I think it's just because it's like very small bite size and then you can't really interrupt yourself for that wrong. That's a, it's a good one. It's a good one. Asian man, right? The Asian joke. Yeah. Um, but no, I'm eating leftovers from last night because I spent what is around 40% of one of my paychecks on sushi because late stage capitalism won't let me move out of my family's house and I can't afford anything despite working three jobs. Welcome to 2025. All our promises were taken away from us as Gen Z kept growing. But what do I have? I have nine Kuma rolls. Also, my cat is staring menacingly at me. She wants the sushi. Uh, everything is half eaten. Uh, Yeah, but it looks good. It's got whitefish on top of it. No avocados. I I feel like that's how sushi was before avocados. Like, you ever wonder if sushi ever had avocados before the global trade or anything? Because how was Japan ever supposed to get avocados if they were the most sanctioned country on earth? Hi, hello, hello, hi. You're not getting any of this. I'm sorry. Your favorite food is steak. That's the really strange thing about my cats is that they don't really enjoy fish too much. But I brought sushi home and they were mildly curious. So the other thing is that South American soy sauce. It is it has this la choy taste. You know, have you ever been to America? I'm probably speaking to Americans. But if you've ever gone to America and you look at the soy sauce options, there's the low sodium one, which I wish I had. And then it's the Kikoman. The Kikoman things, they have them all the Chinese restaurants and everything. And that's actually one of my favorites. I don't like this La Choy. It has a very Spanish taste. I don't know how it works, but yeah, I guess that's what I get for ordering without avocados. But I really want to know, like, what? Oh, Hazel's hunting a random flying moth in my room. But let's go for the phosphorus. This one's pretty filling. I like it. This is this is pretty good stuff. It's a Kuma roll. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or if it exists anywhere. Um, Here's the other thing that people will want to know about Venezuelans, completely out of pocket. They put mayonnaise on everything. I know that sushi, they use like a spicy mayo and everything. There was no sushi. There was no spicy mayo. They also didn't have wasabi, which I know. Fish consumption is a very strange subject when it comes to America. I know that when you live near the coast, like you have more access to seafood and everything, and it's a little cheaper, and people will cook it more often. Fish is quite an adventure. I am not the biggest fan of cooking fish, but salmon is like my favorite dish. Period. And yeah, well, I got some Philadelphia rolls with salmon on them. All right, ADHD again. Let's talk about Instagram. Um, I've been using Instagram in a slightly different way now. Like I'm starting to find like slowly. I think the algorithm is trying to guide people into certain communities. I don't know if that makes sense, but um, like the algorithm is trying to, I guess, uh, we don't know what the algorithm wants really, other than to make money and to probably keep certain people low while others, get promoted. But I think what we're seeing is that, for example, in 2014, like the BuzzFeed era, there was this there was this very politically correct piece. Like, there's very politically correct area of just like humor and social events and everything. And like, do I miss that bleakness in a way? I do, but that's because I would disassociate in different ways back then. Like, I was a kid back then. I didn't use drugs. But drugs is a great way to disassociate as an adult, and also a great way to self medicate, depending on the drug. But in general, there was also this like corporate happy speak, and then now our algorithms kind of know what we want, and it's, well, as we scroll, what are you going to see? Well, our ADHD is perfectly lined up for this. It's just, suddenly you see a video of a guy getting unfairly arrested because we hate cops. There's also a video, like, there's videos talking about, like, when it comes to, like, psychic stuff, it always interested me because I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and they're very, very scared of anything paranormal. Anything that they say that is a paranormal experience, they usually like to chalk it up to demons. And I didn't like the main story that like other denominations like to corroborate with Seventh-day Adventists is that story of when Saul goes to see the medium the day before he dies. And I like I have said this a lot of times, is that at the end of the day, what a Christian really wants is a good manifestation of time. Now, what I mean by that is that the word manifest is being used in a very tricky way nowadays. It's trying to essentially show itself, edify itself, if you will, in the way that you think it comes out of things that are out of your own control. Things that, whenever a miracle occurs, it's usually a manifestation of time, as in as in it says that something occurred at the right time, or at the very right time, or with time this happened. So, like, why don't you just call God time itself? Like, isn't the most important god in Greek mythology Kronos, the god of time? So that basically is what like shattered my illusion as being religious, is that you is that being religious, you seem like you're subjected to time itself. Like, time is ever present, its existence from the beginning, and it manifests itself in ways that humans can still not really comprehend. And I saw this video about this lady who said that she was, what is it, psychometry? That she was evaluated for psychometry, and she had later joined the Navy. And my question is that, like, what is the American government trying to get? Are they trying to get access to supernatural powers before everyone else? Because there was, in Russia there was talks of Rasputin. In the Slavic East, there's a lot of bohemic traditions and things that would be, I guess, they really would be classified as things like natural medicine and hippie rituals. And I honestly enjoy that so much more than church. But that's because you understand what a spiritual connection feels like. It's almost like a feeling that when you have that connection with someone and you just want to lose all your control to them, Like you're okay with being, I guess, um, not a subject. I'd say nah. I'd say that you'd be not the victim. What's the word in this case? That you are not in control, and therefore you give up your control. Now that's what a lot of pastors, and they're just gonna keep rambling on about, like, oh, whatever you can't, you leave it to God. I'm like, that's literally just you trying to brush off responsibility of thought, isn't it? So, what the fuck is in this roll? What is that? What's that green shit? It's the only roll that has it. Is this like this? Is it seaweed? It can't be seaweed. It's too weak. Oh, it is seaweed. I've just never seen it so light colored. It's like the color of my shit. Bon appetit. God, I love it. I love people that can genuinely have a disgusting conversation while they eat. I don't know what it makes me like. Like, just talk about sex, talk about drugs, talk about shit, talk about all the nasty stuff while you're just downing a pizza slice. It's just, I love socially unacceptable things. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger. And I guess that makes you neurodivergent in a way. And I guess when you feel like you're more than just yourself, as in, like, you want to feel what is the higher self and what is generally what you, I guess it's like your ultimatum in life, or like what you're trying to reach, your end goal. And I don't know, people with neurodiversity, I feel like they have a lot of trouble deciding on one thing because they want to do a lot of things, knowing that our time on earth as humans is very limited. So I think that what happens philosophically here is that they would try, I mean, obviously people with ADHD, is that they would rather live in the moment. Hmm. You want to leave? You want to leave? All right, let me open the door for you. Go. Go, kitty. There we go. Anyway, that's my daughter, Hazel. Yeah, I don't know. This is like a very strange video. It's like, this video is, if I were to post it online, which I very likely might, it just reveals a lot of internal thoughts. Mukbangs are really good for that, you know? It's like you get that, I feel like I'm getting a dopamine hit in the morning from eating sushi at 7 a.m. because I've been awake since 3. There's also dopamine. Let's talk about dopamine and hormones and all that. There was one point where I did mushrooms, and one of my friends was like, "Come here and, like, cuddle with all of us." And he was like, "You feel it?" I was like, "Feel what?" "It's the serotonin." And once they said that, it was like, wow, like, you really feel that. And there is something about the subconscious mind, I guess, being more active during the dormant hours. I saw the Jacob Geller video where he talked about the fear of the dark, and there was a clip where he mentioned about the longest blackout in India, and how the human schedule, like, the human schedules itself to sleep in 2 different increments of the day. Could it be because of capitalism and Christianity that forced us to work this hard for what we needed, I guess, our resources? Is something that yodelate And could it be something that I guess it was I guess it was a time where I guess people didn't work as hard, and then feudalism happened, and then you would have to subject yourself to those different times. Here I am talking about time again, because time changes, and throughout time there's been different gods and everything. But back to the dopamine thing. So the dopamine and the subconscious. There's been like so my family and other people in the church, they talk about like, oh, like what if you just wake up in the middle of the night and you had a dream about somebody, and then you pray for that person, and then the next day you're like, well, I was thinking about that, and that was like, well, first of all, again, the whole manifestation of time thing comes back up. But then also the principle of just having a collective subconscious is like really weird. I feel like that's something that Christians want to strive to have, and it's like, could we even have that? Because if people could read minds, I feel like that we would have solved the case of insanity. And obviously, I mean, who's to say if insanity is something completely different than, repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? That's why, that's why it's like you expect a result from doing the same thing. In other words, like praying and reading the Bible. Could it be that Christianity itself also leads people into insanity? And generally, I think that that lifestyle for me was just not healthy, because there was I think there's been like moments of, like, I guess when you're maturing. I consider like the most I matured was probably like 2021, and that's because I was I was overseeing an abusive relationship, and I was also suffering at the same time with like constant poverty and not being able to afford moving into a place, which led me to being homeless later. And there was there's always like that other thing that you want, and like you want to build connections with people. You want to establish things, but like, wow, I realize that this is like the most ADHD mukbang I've ever done. And this is like not even a full mukbang. I'm not even eating that much. Now my cat wants to come back in. Hold on. There's not even food in your bowl. There's not even food in the other bowl because the other cat ate it. Yes. All right. Let me get the cat. And no, you can't have sushi. Entra. So, let's see. What do you want? Hmm? No. So, there's been like this thought that I've always had, that it's like, what if you create an AI capable of slipping into insanity and then able to be completely coherent again? Like, that would make a great plot for a movie. I think so. I think that somebody just absolutely going insane, being like, I like to watch you shit in the middle of an elevator. I'm getting very Mozartian with my humor. Oh, God. If you don't know, this is one of the favorite things I like to tell people people that are very sheltered and don't really know much about history in the world, is how in music you kind of have to let everything go as it wants to be, as in like let everything be. Because if you really didn't, you wouldn't have things like Mozart. Like who's to say Mozart would be like playing in a pile of his own shit in the middle of a street? I mean, he had kids and was an alcoholic and died young, but I mean, he enjoyed his way of living. Obviously, I wouldn't want to kiss him, but it would be very interesting to just know what goes on in the brain of somebody that you would classify as insane centuries ago, but then classify them as a genius centuries later. There's like another video that I watched, and it was the TikTok Gave Me Autism, or the Science of Self-Diagnosis by Alexander Avila, a Venezuelan philosopher. How would you know? And he talked about how people that were neurodivergent, they they could pass off as having some spiritual divine revelation. Maybe not the neurodivergence part, but like somebody that would want to pretend to have supernatural powers or pretend to know something that other people don't. I don't know if it's with sushi and bringing out the burps in me, but maybe it's the air pockets in the rice. Hazel's trying to open the other container. Hey. Yeah, oh, she's looking at it menacingly. Lol. I can't really show you the rest of my room because it's a shame to show you what it looks like. It's not hoarder level, but it's like there's a pile of shit right in the side of my bed, and then the piles aren't that tall. It's like 20 or 30 things, but we have tiny everything, tiny closets. In Latin America, everything is tiny except the dicks and ass. So, and boobas. Boobas are very big. So, yeah, big boobas. I love that word. It's so stupid. See, I'm 25 years old. That shit. My sushi's falling apart. There's like, that's the other thing. Let's see how much I can get on this topic before I switch on to another one. But maturity. I feel like the concept of maturity is you just not enjoying parts of your childhood, so you grow to resent them, and then therefore you say, well, this is what classifies as adulthood. And if we were to really analyze what classifies as adulthood, there's the part of paying taxes, having to work constantly, potentially having children, and there's also this part about like giving up drugs to raise your kids, which, I mean, it depends what drugs. You probably shouldn't need to give them up and all that, but there's this standard of living where you just can't have drugs be around and be around your children, which is really, really weird, because obviously, you know, there's stoner parents and people that need drugs to function. Like, anybody that takes Prozac in order to function shouldn't ever look at a stoner and be like, ha, you're an addict. That doesn't bode well for me at all. Like, dependence itself on substances is something that is very natural, and that is why we have certain receptors to those substances already in our systems. It's like we're almost meant to do the drugs. That's the other thing, that it's like, what was I talking about 30 seconds ago? Maturity. That when you take certain drugs, I feel like the concept of maturity, I mean, sometimes I'm just going to say it, psychedelics, they play with the idea of maturity. Like you cross social barriers that you didn't know were there. Like, for example, like there was this one time where we were all doing mushrooms, and in that same mushroom trip, we all started playing with each other's hair. There was a black guy involved too. Like, we we like we're like, whoa, hair is so cool. It's like so awesome, and you really just take in like you act in a way like a child, but like when you're a child, you don't feel free because you're subject to authority. So there's this part in, I guess you say, the teenage years where you kind of like experiment and you become a little rebellious and everything. And whenever you whenever you really look at maturity as a whole concept and you're like, huh, why are these 30-year-olds constantly angry or stressed, or they don't even like to have fun? And there's a part of me that, like, introspectively, I told myself that maturity really is just a concept meant to keep people from enjoying more aspects of life. There's a bunch of people that all of a sudden, when they're in their 30s, they start drinking more. Like, and what happened to smoking weed? Did you just quit weed? Like, you prefer alcohol? You prefer all the bad side effects of it? Yeah, I know, right? So, like, alcohol's really weird because alcohol's that, like, it's that drug where people just, you can't really be introspective on alcohol. At least I can't really be that way. What it does to me is that it shuts my brain off. Because with ADHD, I just have constant racing thoughts. And then when you drink, it kind of, the thoughts just go away. You're literally staring at a wall, and you're not even telling yourself, I am looking at a wall. Yeah, okay. That's cats for you. So, yeah, back to maturity. I feel like maturity is just you not enjoying things that are made available. Like, if you look at architecture, look at millennial architecture. Millennial architecture is all gray, brown, black bricks even. Like, it's, if you look at a modern suburban McMansion, there's a lot of gray, and then there's occasionally this white accent. Like, nothing really has color in life anymore. And there was the funny shoe on head clip of of like, put I want the bright red McDonald's again. Put cocaine back in Coca-Cola. Like that kind of energy, you know? Don't worry, I've never done coke. Don't do it. Like, just the thing about drugs and maturity is that, like, you have to take certain drugs and realize that the fun that you had as a child doesn't have to go away when you're an adult. And the really important part about that is that, like, it makes you focus on your mental health. Like, I can't tell you how therapeutic it feels to be listening to fucking Cringe Step or like Nightcore and just jumping up and down in my room for 30 minutes. Like, that is exercise. It's therapy. It's great. And, like, meanwhile, like, the whole time I'm just like it's like you make your own club in your room. Like, sure, I can't afford to really go out at night that much because I spent it all on the sushi. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like you're full of choices in life, and obviously limits. And I spoke with Cubs about a year ago, actually half a year ago, and he told me that, I mean, obviously I didn't believe in the devil either, but he said if the devil exists in any way, think of it as limitations. And I'm like, holy shit. It seems like such a far-fetched concept, one from the other, that, like, limitations and devil. But if you think about it, like, the devil card in tarot, In the original Rider-Waite Smith deck, there's the chains that the lovers are bound to that little black box. And the thing about those chains is that anybody can just take them off and go wherever they please. So there, I feel like with drugs, if drugs were free, if food was free, if healthcare was free, we first of all, people would be living a lot longer and a lot happier. But with with more access to everything, you're gonna have uh, you're gonna have less limitations, and there's gonna be less of a reason to say no to things. And a bunch of the reasons why people say no to things, especially in Christian households, is that they draw up some devil figure out of nowhere and then they say, I shouldn't do that because it might lure the devil or not appease God or whatever. And I'm just like, at this point, you got to do what makes you happy and not care about even what your subconscious thinks, because your subconscious also has trauma in it. And you shouldn't really be like, you shouldn't really be limiting your brain to even those thoughts. Even explore those thoughts. Like definitely definitely play with yourself in many ways. Test yourself. Treat your body like an experiment, because that's what native tribes did with plants thousands of years ago. Somebody had to die in order to know if a plant was poisonous. That's a sad reality. So, once we discover that, well, maybe this one plant can grow better in this other continent, like not so much like kudzu in America and Japan and all that, but there's this whole element of like not having freedom when you're mature, and the limitations that I would understand when you're mature is your physical body breaking down. Like when people say people over 30 have irritable bowel syndrome, well, already got it, so I feel old. When people say that their joints pop and like joints could hurt and everything like that, well, I grew up a fat kid with constant knee pain and back pain, and I had a deformed back. I had scoliosis, and I still kind of do. So I felt all of those pains of aging, and none of that has stopped me from pursuing my passions and looking for a reason to do what I want. Um, there's something about being a musician that really makes you live life in a very alternate way. So, for example, any musician that goes out to eat fancy food once, most of them are broke. And so that money had to come from somewhere. And you always got that thought when you're living in a country full of people that are poor, America, anywhere else. But it's like, well, somebody has money. Somebody's parents have money. And there's this really, like, I went on a date a few months back, and it was the first time that I spent restaurant money in years. Like, I haven't, like, to be frank, I make less than $300 a month. And that money, I don't have much to do with it. Most of it I ended up saving up to buy this phone that I'm filming with. But there's just, like, money is also a limitation if you think of it as well. Like, sure, you can do a lot of things, and it came from external help. But as a musician, the only thing money is doing is really buying you more time. Which, again, ties back to, if you're a Christian, God really is just time itself. I really want some crab rangoon with cottage cheese. I told that to my friend the other night. Well, I don't know where the idea of just cottage cheese with crab rangoon came in, but damn. Yeah, this video is getting really long. Like, this is almost symphony length, and I don't even know if I can upload the symphony because it's so long. So, I'll see what I can do, but this food is not done. I was just able to rant along with some food, and it helped me, get to places that my brain hasn't been before. And yeah, what a nice way to spend the morning. Good morning, everybody.